Pledge of Allegiance as able. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation,
under God,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Right, may we have a roll call, please?
Johnson.
Present.
Kelly.
Here.
Mikulski.
Here.
Polika.
Here.
Leaks May.
Here. Now for the agenda, but I'd like to, before we move on, I'd like to do something a little bit different. There's an item that I would like to pull from the agenda so that we may discuss it at a later time. That item is item on the regular agenda. It is item 8A. And the reason being is because we recognize the importance of the position, but in the early improvements, it is brought to customer service. However, given the uncertainties surrounding the upcoming November election, we believe it's best to reconsider this appointment until after the election. And I'd like to request the support of a council member. Oh, also, I want to also move item, under the presentations, item 4B will be presented, but the motion will be moved to the regular agenda, which would be item 8C. And I'd like to request council support as far as a motion regarding those amendments.
I move we,
Modify the agenda.
and am I moving the agenda as amended or with the requested changes?
Yes, with the requested changes.
And I move the approval of the agenda with the requested changes.
Support.
Johnson.
Yes.
Polika.
Yes.
Kelly.
Yes.
Mikulski.
Yes.
Leaks May.
Yes. And now we will go to presentation item 4A, presentation of the June 2024 Ferndale Beautification Awards. Good evening.
So we're kind of doing double duty since we're now a double commission with Arts and Cultural and Beautification merged. And the Arts and Cultural version of the commission had started the Ferndale Collective that I presented to you guys quite a few months ago. And the next step of that was coming up with an event that would unify the artists. And we kept asking ourselves, what should we do? What do they want? And we decided to ask them, so we created the Ferndale Think Tank, which included over 60 artists and creative individuals who attended the Think Tank on Thursday, May 23rd at Incubizo. And Josh is lovely, who owns Incubizo, and was very accommodating. So here are just some images, and one of the really wonderful things that happened is almost everyone from council and the mayor showed up at our event. And some of the outcome of it, and these are the sponsors that provided food, but the artists overwhelmingly agreed that they wanted the think tank to continue on a quarterly basis. They had tons of great ideas that we will incorporate into those future think tanks. And the two most popular requests, or the most popular requests, actually two, sorry. The most popular request, besides having the think tank continue, was guidance and help with grants and also small art fair types of opportunities that aren't charging the artists. So we're going to investigate that for them at our upcoming September think tank. So watch our social pages for the date on that. And now I'll turn it over to my co-chair and think tank partner.
Hello, Council and Mayor and all. We had our June Beautification Award nominations out. We got 24 different nominations from places around, from the quadrants around the city. And we always choose one property within each quadrant to receive the awards. So our first winner was in the Northwest quadrant. It is 540 West Woodland. This house brings beautification to several new levels. You'll see that there's different levels leading up to the house, and each level offers up to lights for the viewers or for the homeowners. The soft street level prepares you for the first set of stairs that you're going to encounter. And the second level is a more personal space with personality and privacy, personality and privacy for the homeowners. You'll see the winding lanes, the stonework, as well as a couple of their personality points throughout the lawn. Our second house is in the northeast quadrant. It is 241 East Camborne. This house has undergone some major changes since it was purchased. The house strip portion and the front portion of the lawn was previously all grass and is now changed into basically a cottage-type garden and a rainbow archway that welcomes all. Is anyone here from 241? Our southwest winner is 700 Gardendale. Every inch of this lawn is dedicated, of this yard in this house is dedicated to enrichment and entertainment. The pollinators and the local cats are often found perusing the sculptures and the plants that are out there for all to enjoy. And homeowner Tracy is here. I'd like to present her with her sign and her certificate, and if she'd like to say a little bit about her lawn and her time in Ferndale.
I've owned my home for 17 years now. I've been a Ferndale resident. It'll be 20 years in August. And when I moved into this house, there was not a single plant or tree or bush or anything. And it's been a labor of love, but I'm so grateful for the peace that it brings me, and I'm constantly digging things up and giving plants away to other neighbors and fellow gardeners on the Pleasant Ridge Ferndale garden page to help spread more native perennials. So I'm happy to do it. Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you.
Oh, okay. And lastly, we have 475 East Saratoga. This double lot is surrounded by a brick wall that holds in its cavalcade of various beautiful flowers that delight with each season. The magnolia tree greets each spring, and we hope it's damaged by the windstorm this spring will not dampen its beauty. Do we have anyone from 475? Okay, and next up in July, we have our Ferndale Coneflower Awards, and our Beautification Awards nominations are due in by July 16th.
That's it. That is all. Thank you very much for your time.
Through the chair, if I may ask a question?
Yes.
So do you keep the nominations that are submitted in June for consideration in July, or all the June nominations scrapped and then you have to resubmit them for July?
Lynn and I are actually co-chairs of this joint group, and yes, once you are submitted as a nomination for the calendar year, you are kept for the entire nomination season. So June through August, we do come out and re-photograph your property as the year progresses. So there'll be a new photograph in July, and there'll be a new photograph in August, because things change. So yes, once you're nominated, you are in for the entire beautification season.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
And just also, I'd like to add, congratulations, Ferndale Parents Unite. Congratulations to you. That's awesome. All right. And next, we will have the presentation of the Community Energy Management Grant application, but this is just a presentation, and remember, the motion will be on the regular agenda.
Hi.
Through the chair, Michelle, I can help you out there.
Okay.
And it's my honor while I'm up here to introduce Michelle Peters, a Ferndale resident who is also supporting us in a larger regional grant administration. And through that, we have another grant application process related to that. And I'll allow Michelle to kick us off.
Hi, Mayor. Hi, Council. I'm honored and just very excited to be here today to talk about what we're doing to help the city a little bit more, and I'll get started.
Oh, I didn't explain that.
There we go. Technology's great when the person in front of it figures out how to use it. Well, I'm Michelle Peters. I'm the Consulting Services Program Manager at Energy Sciences. We are a women-owned engineering and energy management firm in Berkeley. I've been a proud Ferndale resident for 7 years, so I'm, once again, very excited to be here. Really what I want to talk about to you to give everybody some context is how we got here today. So last fall, the city of Ferndale joined a coalition that was led by Madison Heights, along with the cities of Oak Park and the Lamphir School District, and the goal was to create a regional decarbonization. This April, the Department of Energy selected our plan, and we are currently in the inaugural round of Energy Future Grants through the U.S. Department of Energy. This ties in a little bit, and I'll continue to go through this, but this is just the outline. EGLE, the Department of Environment, Great Lakes, and Energy, has a grant that is supplemental that we think could really be used to align an energy efficiency strategy with the Energy Future Grant. And really what we wanted to do was work on building on where the city is with its climate action plan that's outlined in Plan Ferndale. So just a little bit too on Energy Future Grant. So this is a two-phase grant, and I apologize in advance for the massive wall of text. I'm going to try to summarize this. It's a two-phase grant from the Department of Energy. And really what their goal is to really scale strategies on a local level that increase resilience, improve access to clean energy, and really show innovation and deployment, and that they're ready to help with the transportation sector, buildings, and/or the power sector. So phase one, which is what we're working on right now, is a $500,000 planning grant that's being used to develop the regional decarbonization plan. Phase two is a $1 million grant for implementation, and based on our progress during phase one, they told us quarter two to quarter three, they'll do an assessment, and they're going to pick about half of the projects that were awarded in phase one for the implementation grant. And how this all kind of came to being too is that Energy Sciences, we've supported the lead applicant, the city of Madison Heights, for years, and then we worked on building a coalition with the cities of Ferndale, Oak Park, and the Lamphir School District through the application process, because this grant really, really prioritized coalition building and regionality. They also encouraged cities and like communities to band together. And I will just have you know, we are only one of two that were awarded this grant in the state of Michigan in the country. And I've met with quite a few of the recipients, and we're on the smaller end of cohorts, right? These are a lot of very large cities with very large staffs, and we were able to band together as a small group of inner ring suburbs and a school district and put together a really, really great plan. The project is currently in the award negotiation phase with the Department of Energy, so we're going back and forth a little bit here and there, and we are expected to have that finalized in mid-fall. That means we'll know our full total amount, and we'll have a better idea of when we get started once we get through this process. So this is just a really, really broad timeline of what the Energy Future Grant looks like. And you're going to see it says month 1, month 2, month 3. We don't really know when these months are going to be. These months start when we find out, our award amount. So we have 3 main tasks that everybody is working on, and 1 task at the end that we come together and we collaborate on. So we're working on individual community engagement plans. We're calling it an operating assessment, an operating performance assessment and inventory. So really working together to also come up with one way of quantifying, calculating, and tracking our greenhouse gas emissions, because there are multiple methods that this can be done. There are multiple benchmark points. There are multiple ways to calculate a baseline. So in order for us to really be able to come up with a plan, we want to try to collectively come up with one uniform method that we all use, because it's apples and oranges if you're looking at one city and another city, and you both have different baseline points, and you both are tracking it different ways. So that is part of where the innovation comes in with this, trying to collectively find one uniform way to do this together. The third part that we all work on and we support each other with, but we're doing it individually, is our fleet and mobility assessment and inventory. So really taking a look at the energy intensity of our fleets and working together also to determine some of these barriers to electrification, and then talking to each of our individual communities about, what their mobility needs are, what electric vehicle usage looks like, what some of the impediments to that are, and how we can best serve them. And then together, what we will do is we will take the results of these three things, we'll create our own mobility transformation plans, an operating improvement plan, and then come together and take all of these things that we've created, because we know each of our cities are unique, each of our jurisdictions are unique, and our communities are unique, but find common ground, come together, and develop a regional decarbonization plan that takes into consideration all of those things. So that leads us to what we're really here to talk about, the Community Energy Management Grant. So this is a grant from EGLE, the Department of Environment, Great Lakes, and Energy. Generally, EGLE does this once a year. This is the most money I've ever seen go into this, though, for an awardee. So it's a grant for up to $100,000 for local and tribal governments. There are no matching funds required for this, and it really is designed to meet the community where they are, on their journey to energy efficiency and energy management. You can use it for any project that's energy related, whether you want to do benchmarking, community engagement, what we're about to propose in just a minute. Energy Sciences is assisting the city of Ferndale in submitting a package, in submitting this application at absolutely no cost, because of that relationship we built during the DOE grant. And if all goes well, Logan will be submitting the application on Friday. And one other thing to keep in mind is that all projects that are awarded funding are to be completed by August 31st of 2025. That's why that timeline that I had showed you, that kind of shows what's going on with the first grant, is important, because these are timed to kind of meet each other. This will bring us to a point where we can do some pre-work to get ready for that. And what we really are proposing here is taking a look at some of the current practices and previous facility reports, doing ASHRAE Level 2 audits for Fire Station 1 and the main DPW facility, using those two things together to create an energy efficiency action plan for 2025 through 2027, which is about the life cycle of the Energy Future Grant as well. And we'll be able to provide some monthly updates to the city, and then we'll also help and assist with preparing quarterly reports for EGLE. The goal for the end of this is really, like I had said, to build on the progress that the city has made, and out of the three other jurisdictions that are part of the Energy Future Grant, Ferndale is by far the leader when it comes to buildings, when it comes to measuring greenhouse gas emissions, and developing a climate action plan. So this will also put Ferndale in a position to help continue that leadership role. And it will be, as I had said, a 24-month energy efficiency strategy that we are working on aligning with the Energy Future Grant. So I'm going to take a look at each of these tasks individually. The first task is going to be an assessment of current practices and previous facility reports. So what we will do is we'll take a look at the master plan, including that climate action plan, and we'll be able to collaborate with the city staff and determine which priorities and focus areas and actions that are in that climate action plan align with the Energy Future Grant, and then be able to strategically say, hey, we can do this in coordination with this. We can actually have funding to achieve some of these goals through this. Then what we will do is we'll take a look at some of those facility reports. There are a lot of them from 2021, and begin preparing for the 2 ASHRAE Level 2 audits. And when we get through this, we'll have a little report that we'll be able to share with the results and give you a little bit of a preview of what's going to happen next. So ASHRAE Level 2 audits are a little bit more in depth than the facility inspections that had happened and analysis that happened in 2021. What we do is we take a little walkthrough. We actually go through and we'll take these reports, we'll compare pictures. We'll also do a lot more data collection. We'll be looking at things like controls, HVAC systems, how the building operates, conduct some interviews with the staff to really figure that out for the main DPW facility and Fire Station 1. And we take all of that information and we're able to take a look at everything we've collected along with the building envelope, considering the operations and all of those complex systems, from process systems to HVAC to water heating to how the building is occupied, when it is occupied. Are there things like occupancy sensors, lighting controls? And we'll be able to use that, create a report that'll give a full picture of all of the sources of energy consumption and pinpoint some of those high sources of energy consumption that just aren't in a report like the ones that you had. We'll be able to take a look at that a little bit further, and you'll have a full list. We call them ECMs in the industry. They're called energy conservation measures. And this list of energy conservation measures will have a full financial analysis, and that financial analysis will include things like, what the break-even point is, what the cost-benefit is. We'll also include things like funding opportunities to implement some of them. We'll have a lot of low to no cost measures that are operational, that don't require much to do. And then we'll also be able to take those measures and connect those to potential funding sources from the state and from other federal grants. There's also potential rebates from DTE and Consumers Energy that will be included in that as well. One other thing that we wanted to also state here is that ASHRAE Level 2 audits are required by the state of Michigan for any facility before funding through grants for renewable energy projects will be considered. So after some conversations with Joe, with Logan, with Jim, we talked about, what facilities should we really consider this for the most, and Fire Station 1 and the main DPW facility were the ones they were really gravitating towards because of how frequently they operate. They're pretty much 24/7 facilities. We care about the staff and the people who work in them. In the DPW facility in the winter, it gets really, really cold. So we want to really take care of the people who are in there. Also, not waste money on the energy that it costs, on the energy to heat a space like that. And the third part of this is really coming together, taking everything that we learned from the first task, which is that review of current practices, and then the second task, which is the ASHRAE Level 2 audits, combining that with what we know from the master plan and the climate action plan and any strategic priorities and objectives that the city has, and creating an action plan that's aligned with the Energy Future Plan and with the CAP. We'll include a written strategy report document. We'll also have an action item list that's divided into timelines. So once everything is approved and we've submitted it and we're all good to go, you'll have a list of things that can be completed in 3 to 6 months, 0 to 3 months, 6 to 12 months, 12 to 24. And the thought line, the process behind this is it sets the city up to take advantage of that potential $1 million of funding that will be split between the cohort for the Energy Future Grant. And then it also gives a roadmap to the city for other grants and potential funding that are made available through the state of Michigan and the federal government. We'll also plan for a reassessment periodically for the future and adjust and update the plan as needed, because we don't just drop off the plan and say, here you go at Energy Sciences. That's not how we operate. We're here to be your companion. We're here to be your trusted partner to help you through this. And with that, thank you guys. Are there any questions?
Through the chair. Great presentation. Thank you very much. You had stated that the application is due at the end of this week. Decisions will be made by the end of August, and the money has to be, I think you said end of August? No.
The decision generally from Eagle comes within about 3 to 4 weeks of the application submission.
Okay, so by the end of...
by the end of July, and the project will have to be finished by the end of August 2025. So a little over a year after.
Okay. How does that align with your timing for the 4 deliverables, where you have the 1 to 3 months and 3 to 7 months? I mean, are we really pushing the time limit there?
No, so we are estimating, and I have this in front of me, I just didn't want to run out of time and, make a million slides, but I can send this to you all as well, so you can have the timeline, and it's actually in the proposal that we will be sending that'll accompany this. But task 1, August 2024 through October 2024. That's the assessment of current practices and facility reports. Task 2, November 2024 through March 2025. That's going to be the 2 ASHRAE Level 2 assessments. Also, just on the side, we're anticipating that the Energy Future Grant will be receiving that funding around October, November-ish, so these will be aligning with that other grant. Task 3, which is going to be the Energy Efficiency Action Plan. We have February 2025 through July 2025 just to give us enough time to go through revisions. But I was talking with Logan about this, and realistically, I think this whole plan will probably take us in the neighborhood of 8 to 10 months. So it'll be finished well before the deadline. But we also want to take advantage of the time that Eagle gives us and not push ourselves too hard. But if we find that things are progressing faster, we certainly will adjust the timelines.
This next question probably goes more to you, Joe. Now, we are hopeful that the millage will pass in November. If it doesn't, I understand the need to, do some investments into Fire Station 1. But if it doesn't pass, the plan eventually is to replace Fire Station 1. And so would we be looking at investing that money or investing into a different project rather than just invest, going forward with Fire Station 1 and then 3-4 years later, we're going to be redoing Station
1. Excuse me. Well, the funding for the fire is just not known, but I think we have a climate action plan and we have broad goals to better understand the energy efficiency of our buildings. So whether the funding is secured or whether the funding is not secured, it's still in the city's interest to better understand the energy costs and reduce those costs. I might have misunderstood your question, maybe.
Well, no, I agree to better understand that. My concern is that if we're awarded the money to do the improvements, now all of a sudden, we're awarded this money and, you know, the residents have approved the millage to allow us to actually replace Fire Station 1. Why would we want to invest that money into a station that would be replaced? Or is the idea that we're trying to prepare for either scenario?
I think you know, this is speculation, but in that world, you're talking about facilities investments that would begin with public safety, and the Fire Station 1 would be after that. So realistically, I think you're probably 5 years out of acting on investments with Fire Station 1.
If I may, you'll also have a really good baseline to benchmark what you want to do for Fire Station 1 when you go through to renovate or rebuild it. You'll understand the operations, and then you'll be able to use that data to make informed decisions about how you want to rebuild it for energy efficiency.
Like that part.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments?
Excellent.
Thank you, Michelle. I'm excited, one, that you're a Ferndale resident and that you're working with us and advocating us throughout this process. So I'm excited to see what happens moving forward and how we utilize this non-matching fund grant, which is, so thank you. Thank you so much. It was a great presentation.
Thank you.
Through the chair, I'd invite the Assistant City Manager to come up and introduce Rick from Michigan Maui.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. Yeah, it gives me pleasure to present Rick Bunch, who is the Executive Director of Maui, the Michigan Municipal Association for Utility Issues. This is a group of communities across Michigan that work together to advocate on behalf of municipalities and the residents when dealing with the Michigan Public Service Commission, MPSC, during various rate cases and other issues that come to light when dealing with utilities like DTE and Consumers Energy. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce Rick. Have him come up.
Thank you, James. Hi, Rick Bunch. Thanks for hearing from me this evening. I'm not from Ferndale. I'm from Ann Arbor Township, for what it's worth. And it looks like I'll need my glasses. I thought I'd start with a quick overview of Maui, tell you about our recent activities, and tell you about what's coming up or what's going on right now, if that would be okay. I'd very much like to hear from you. Because our role is to represent your city's interests with regulated utilities, and for that, we need information from you. Our mission is to help local governments get better rates and services from regulated utilities, and to establish a dialogue about their operating activities within your jurisdiction as well. So that can be a fiscal role, helping you to save money on what you pay to DTE. It can be about your services, like your streetlights, or it can be about your community-wide goals, your climate action plan, your concern for the energy security and affordability and reliability throughout the community. We work a lot in these contested rate cases at the Public Service Commission, where DTE files a rate case, thousands of pages of testimony and exhibits, and we dive into it and say what we think about it and try to get you a better deal. The MPSC also has a lot of proceedings that are not contested about rules or other policies. We intercede in those as well. And we participate in a lot of working groups. An example of that is I represent the Association on the State's Low-Income Energy Policy Board and Energy Affordability and Accessibility Committee. And I'll say a little bit more about that in a moment. Where possible, we have direct dialogue with DT and consumers and the others as well. That doesn't happen nearly as much as we'd like, and we more often end up in litigated proceedings with them. So I'll brief you on the most recent recently concluded DTE rate case. That was concluded late last year. At a big victory for your streetlights. Now, streetlights is kind of an esoteric topic, but for most cities, and I believe for Ferndale, it's probably your biggest electricity usage. And they have not been as reliable as they should be, and they have been more expensive than they should be, and they're using more electricity than they should be. So we've been taking DTE to task over that for many years, and in this last rate case, we made a lot of progress. The biggest victory is we got the commission to agree with us that DTE is installing LED streetlights that are far too bright. The simple comparison is consumers, but it's to the comparison of other utilities around the country. And the problem with that, aside from however you feel about light pollution or light trespass, is that they're using half again as much electricity as they should. And if that's your biggest electricity use, it's cratering your climate action plan. In addition, of course, you pay more for that electricity, you pay more for the brighter LED and so forth. So the commission said to DTE, we're disallowing almost $6 million of your past expenses in putting in these LEDs, and we're not going to allow you to collect that from ratepayers anymore. We're needing to defend that again this year because, of course, DTE did not take that sitting down. We also forced DTE to stop charging you for electricity when your streetlights aren't working. Now that sounds like a simple concept, but for years they've been making you pay as if your streetlights were on 100% of the time. We've made them take 4% of that out because we were able to show that's about what percentage of lights aren't working on any given night. We got the commission to require outage reporting. So once a year you're going to start getting a report. You do have to request it, but you'll start getting a report about how many outages were reported in the city and how many DTE found on their own and how many of them lasted more than 14 days. And the last big victory is we got a big reduction in the company's requested operations and maintenance spend on streetlights. They were nearly trying to double it. And to be honest, it wasn't that hard to show that that was ridiculous. The outcome, DTE was looking to get about $8 million more from its streetlight business. We were able to cut that in half. For the city of Ferndale, with more than 1,800 streetlights, saving about $20 a year per streetlight, that's about a $36,000 difference for the city on an annual basis. Repeating, assuming we can defend all of that again. We also, in this last rate case, worked a lot on residential rates and reliability. So I think it's a well-known fact that our utilities in Michigan have a very poor reliability record, and they have amongst the highest rates in the country. That's a bad combination. Now, a lot of interveners in these rate cases tackle that topic. We try to tackle it from the specific perspective of local governments. And so what we've advocated is that DTE should have much better project coordination with local governments. One of the really irritating occurrences, for example, is when DTE comes and digs up a street a year before you were going to do a major road rebuild, or God forbid, the year after you did a major road rebuild. There's a lot of examples of that. DTE has said, look, we communicate with cities. We tell them when we've decided to do a project, and if they want to change their schedule around, they can do that. We think that's not good enough. We know that your municipal utilities like water and sewer communicate with each other, and we think DTE should be held to the same standard of coordinating with your road building, your water projects, and sewer projects, and other things of that nature. So the commission told DTE to come back with a better description of how they work with local governments next time. They've done that, and they said pretty much the same thing. So we are needing to go after them a little harder this time. We requested that the commission reduce the company's rate of return on its investments. So we were one of many voices there, but the commission did reduce it slightly. So the overall outcome for residential ratepayers is rather than getting a 14% increase, they did get a 7% increase. That was the first increase, I think, since 2020. So we did pretty well there. I think our organization can really take the sole credit for the streetlights stuff, but on the residential issues, a lot of people play a role on that. I was in a meeting of the Low-Income Energy Policy Board today, which is an interagency coordinating group convened by the Commission. Distressing news is that what's called the State Emergency Relief Program that helps people who are about to be shut off because they can't afford to pay the bill has run out of money. It's out of money until October 1st. We also learned that owing to new federal rules, applicants for ongoing assistance through the Michigan Energy Assistance Program are facing more paperwork, as are the agencies that try to assist them. So there's less money and it's harder to get. That is not good because, again, rates are going up and up. We have a lot of people struggling to make ends meet. So we're doing our best to represent or to advocate for more creative solutions and more money going into these programs on behalf of local governments. We have also been in administrative proceedings advocating for better data access for local governments. So the streetlight outage is a narrow example of that, but another is we think you should be getting annual reports on overall reliability in your community and know where the reliability is worst. We think you should be getting reports so you know how many people are struggling to pay their bills in your community and who may need help. How many are behind? How many are arrears? How many people got shut off? We think you need better communication from DT when there are outages. And there's just horror stories about the difficulties of local governments delivering emergency services during outages because the company won't tell you what's going on. So we're working on all of that. In the current rate case where we are about to file testimony next month, we're going to be defending several of these streetlight gains from last time. The company is now seeking a 6% increase in their streetlight rates. We will, as I said, be fighting for better infrastructure project coordination with local governments. And we'll be looking at some of the company's billing practices. One of them that we think is particularly noxious is that they are able, when you have a return payment, let's say your credit card, you've had to cancel it because of fraud. If you consequently have a return payment from DT, they make many people pay by cash for a whole year after that. And they've been reducing the number of company kiosks they offer. So your choice is to go to Kroger, pay a fee to pay your DT bill. And for many people, older people, that involves getting on a bus with $200 in cash and going down to the grocery store. You can see where I'm going. We think that's a terrible idea and it ought to stop. We are also tracking a proceeding at the Commission where the utilities, and unfortunately some of the Commission staff, originally supported that DT and other utilities should get incentives, financial incentives for improving their reliability. The problem is that they're not meeting their statutory reliability requirements now. If you're failing, you shouldn't get a bonus for bringing it up to a D. You've got to at least meet the minimum standards before you get a bonus. Imagine how you'd feel if the city tried to incentivize employees who were performance problems by giving them bonuses. You should give your excellent performers a boost, but not motivate those who are failing with a bonus. So we're tracking that. We're encouraged because the staff finally backed off of that proposal in a report to the Commission, and we think at this point that DT will not be eligible for bonuses until it meets its statutory requirements. So that's all I'll cover for now, and I'd be happy to take your questions or comments about what's on your mind in all of this.
First, I'd like to say that's amazing.
Good.
Thank you for all of that. That was really encouraging to hear.
Thank you.
The things in motion. A lot of people will benefit, and including us as a city will benefit from that advocacy. And I hope you continue to let us know what we can do to help if you need, testimonies or anything like that. I mean, this is, the more you talk, the more excited I get.
Well, that's good to hear, because sometimes I think I send your team too many email messages.
Through the chair, Rick is really good about reaching out and telling us exactly what he needs and when he needs it. It's usually pretty quick because it's in court. But we have submitted several instances of testimony from myself, and have also used communications that I've received from residents and the fire chief and police chief concerning outages to be entered into these court cases as well. And Rick has been a great partner, and my Maui has been wonderful to work with, I think, for at least the last 5 years.
Through the chair, did you also forward the resolution that we passed in May opposing the DTE rate hike?
I did.
Yes.
Awesome.
Yes.
And I have a question.
Okay.
So I know you get comments from residents. We also get comments from residents. And to hear that streetlights that are out are something that we are paying for as if they are on is horrifying to me, because I can think of at least 5 off the top of my head that are currently out that I have sent to DTE and not received any sort of response, no action, and they've been out for at least 6 months.
Oh, boy.
How, is that something that you can help with? Can you advocate at that granular level? Or is that something that we have to continue going directly to DTE on?
I'll answer your question 2 ways. That's a great example that we can put in as testimony in a rate case to say they're not meeting their obligations here. At this point, you continue paying for a streetlight until 30 days after it's reported out. We think that's wrong. They have to stop charging you for the electricity, but that's only about 20% of what you pay. We've been trying to stop that for years. We haven't gotten the commission to agree with us on that yet. We did get that ruling with consumers. We don't think the company has an acute enough financial incentive to get on top of situations like that. So, yeah, we'd very much like to see that change. Love to use the example you just gave me as a short note going in with our testimony in a month.
I would love for you to do that.
I don't know if you're finished. Through the chair, one of the things that I've always encouraged people to do is open a C-Click Fix ticket, because then it's documented in a system. The one thing that I've had issue with C-Click Fix is once it gets assigned to DTE, someone closes it like it's completed. And that's why I've been stressing that these tickets should not be closed until the work is actually completed. If it stays open for a year, it stays open for a year, but at least we have the documentation to show it's not been fixed. So I encourage everybody to use C-Click Fix.
What we found is that DTE will send somebody out to take a look at the light, and if it's not a quick fix, they transfer it to another department and close the ticket, and that's what happens.
Yeah.
They're working on a new system that they say will prevent those false closures.
Yeah. Well, and we have a system that we use within the city called C-Click Fix, where residents can open up a ticket. And my issue is that sometimes those tickets within the city are closed because it was assigned to DTE. And to me, that's like saying it's been fixed, which it hasn't. So my encouragement is to keep the C-Click Fix tickets open until the work is actually done, regardless who is responsible for doing it.
Couldn't agree more.
Any other questions, comments? No? Thank you.
Well, thank you.
I got so distracted by that, I forgot we have more things to talk about. That was great. All right. Presentation of the 2024 Financial Efficiency Report, Assistant City Manager and Assistant City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. One moment, please. The previous discussion parlays nicely with a portion of this presentation. Almost comically so. So I'm just going to preface that. I am getting over a little bit of a seasonal cold, so pardon my raspy voice. I lost it over the weekend, but it's coming back. The city has published its first efficiency report, which was a recommendation included in the March Finance Committee's report and also supported by City Council during the budget process. The budget was adopted in April, and during that process, we typically would identify some efficiency initiatives that were included in the budget process, and we are uplifting those as two featured case studies that are included in the report. After tonight, the report will be published online and available for the public. So the first one, which we've talked about and introduced originally in the March budget workshop, is something that internally we're very proud of. This is a major efficiency initiative that really supports near-term cost reductions. Near-term meaning these are actual costs that we are accruing on an annual basis. These are the mandatory legacy costs that the public might not see on the front end, but on the back end, the city has obligations to pay for retiree health care costs due to legacy contracts, employment contracts dating prior to 2007 when that policy was discontinued. So to be clear from the preface, there are no current employees who receive that benefit. That is a legacy benefit that's been retired since then. So annually, those costs are quite significant, and we do have a professional human resources department that added a pension specialist, and that's Emmanuel Robinson on the bottom right. And Emmanuel was asked to oversee an effort to consolidate all of those individual retirement health care plans into Medicare Advantage for those who are eligible, and most of our retirees are eligible for that. So that takes a lot of time. The goal is to drastically lower those annual costs and simplify the management of those plans. I would also add as a preface, Emmanuel is largely funded through the pension system. So we also have two legacy pension systems that Emmanuel supports, all those beneficiaries of the pension systems. And the retiree health care is completely separate from the pension system. But he is able to work on both because there are some overlap in between retirees who are pensioners who also get retiree health care benefits. So what this required was significant, and it did require a full-time effort. Number one, you're dealing with people. You're dealing with a lot of retirees and seniors, and that means you have to take the time to build relationships and build trust, and Emmanuel did just that. He communicated many different ways. That would be personally, but also taking the time to craft the direct mail messages, cultivating direct email messages as well, and most of his time spending on the phone. We could always hear him talking with our retirees, trying to explain this program to them. Ultimately, he held 5 group meetings and worked on 37 Medicare conversion concerns, which is substantial. That's 37 different individual concerns from our retirees that he had to navigate on an individual one-to-one basis, because a lot of this is building trust. They don't have to convert to the Medicare Advantage plan. They didn't have to do this. This had to be a decision that they had to make that made sense for them, and Emmanuel had to make sure that they were comfortable in what they were agreeing to. If you look at the bottom, that nets out to 155 retirees and beneficiaries converted to one Medicare Advantage plan. And that's 18 different healthcare plans down to 6 Medicare Advantage plans, 18 to 6, which is substantial in terms of simplifying the actual retiree healthcare costs. What that looks like, fiscal 22 would have been your base year. At that point, that's when the conversion work really started to happen behind the scenes. And so you can see the cost reductions occurring in fiscal 23, and really you see the full realization of all those conversions occurring in fiscal 24. Projected is the fiscal 25 budget, and that's what we expected in terms of retiree health care costs. Of course, these are projected based on historical data and based on our beneficiaries and all the information we have. So healthcare costs doesn't just continue to decline, but the costs that we otherwise would have paid have been reduced and are more efficient. And your healthcare costs, this is actually a good point, so people are aware, the $1.3 million is a mandatory legacy cost of the general fund. And so that cost is required regardless of millage. That is a static cost. So it's really, that which really underscores why this effort was so important by the Human Resources Department to control something which really is largely out of our control, which is the asterisk at the bottom. And I would say the Medicare policy, it's subject to change at the federal level. And I know that there are discussions of adding additional benefits and changes to Medicare. And obviously, if there's anything that is changed at the federal level in terms of coverage, that is going to have a downstream effect on our beneficiaries. This is just a general trend analysis that shows the impact of the Medicare Advantage plan. You can look, the line chart really just shows the substantial impact in terms of annual costs for our retiree health care. And we're looking at leveling that out now at this new trend line, which is the fiscal 24. Before we move on, actually, I'll take any questions from council about this or Medicare generally. I will not answer those Medicare questions. I'll cede that to Dan Chasey.
Through the chair, I just have one question. So I know that we negotiated out retiree health care on an ongoing basis. How many more people remain that would enter the pool of folks eligible with retiree health care? Okay.
We can get you that answer as a follow-up.
Not urgent, I'm just curious.
They have the numbers.
It's sort of it's a naturally declining pool over time.
Yeah.
Adding more people to it, so.
Yeah. James will lead the second conversation, which the fire chief has made at least 3 presentations over the last month, so we'll give her a break, but she will be invited to add anything that we missed or correct, or needs to be corrected.
All right, so as we know, fire departments require some of the largest and most expensive specialized equipment within municipal operations. Our fire operations require both, they've got the reserve vehicles as well as their frontline units. Their frontline units are made up of 2 fire engines, pumpers, and 1 ladder truck to perform their duties. The cost of a new fire engine, here we have their fleet. The cost of a new fire engine has risen from about $700,000 in 2019 to currently over $1 million at about $1.03 million. The aerial truck, the bigger one with the big ladder, this has seen a rise of approximately 35% in that time, now going for over $2 million. So as you saw on the last slide, we have some vehicles that are getting close to time to be retired. And due to the long production time for the vehicles, our fire department, our fire chief, started looking at some options for replacing the 2002 fire engine so that we could then put one of the newer ones into the reserve and have a new frontline vehicle. Chief Robinson started looking at a multitude of different factors, looking at staffing, looking at operations, vehicle usage, and also cost to try and identify the future needs for the departments. Looking at this, we're starting to see the costs, right? We have the ladder truck that's going to have to be replaced. We have the fire engine that's going to have to be replaced. Coming up at a combined over $3 million to replace them both. Also, with the current staffing levels, we're not able to fully staff the aerial truck every day. So when a call comes in and the fire department needs to go on the aerial, they have to come in, they have to take all their equipment off of the pumper, put it on the aerial. This leads to a slower response time than we'd like if we could have everybody have that staffed. So this just, as it leads to the slower response time. So after looking, Chief Robinson has decided and is proposing to replace the scheduled fire engine with a different type of truck called a quintuple combination pumper, also known as a quint. For those who were wondering where the term quint came from, it came from the quintuple pumper. This actually combines the services of a fire engine as well as an aerial, though at a smaller ladder, but comes at a much lower cost. We're looking at a potential savings of $2 million for this one vehicle that will serve the purposes of the two vehicles that would be estimated to cost to replace at over $3 million. This will also lead to operational efficiencies. By having one vehicle that is more maneuverable, it's able to get through the city and through narrow streets much easier than the aerial would be able to. We're also able to have that vehicle staffed. So instead of having to put equipment onto the aerial and jump in to take off for a call, we have that ready to go at a moment's notice. This is going to lead to a quicker response time. So also, the nice thing is by looking at replacing this aerial earlier, we're able to potentially get a higher return for resale on that aerial. And we already have gotten an offer for $470,000 to purchase the current ladder, which we can then use to help pay down the quint purchase, increasing the amount of savings. So happy to answer any questions. We've got Chief Robinson to answer those as well.
Through the chair. How much did we originally pay for the aerial? It was purchased in 2011?
That is a heck of a good question. They've gone up 35% since 2019. I would probably put an estimate of at least 1.3 million back then.
I don't think it was that much.
Oh.
It was before I was here,
That,
and we'd had to dig it out, but I think it was around,
I think you're right, around 900. I know it was less than $1 million, because back then I was paying a lot closer attention to the budget because of the original Headley override that was going on at the time.
we'd have to dig back through finance. I don't have those records of the files that were left for me, so we'd have to go back through legacy finance records to find that.
Yeah, even at $1 million back then, 900,000, you're looking at over 100% increase
Oh, yeah.
in these vehicles, just over 15 years.
And
Thank you.
also, were you?
Yes, I'm done, thank you.
And also, did you say that the current ladder is, there's a purchase order, I guess, for it for 470,000?
Yeah, so our current ladder truck, we actually have a fire department here in Michigan that it's received most of the approvals. They've given us an offer for $470,000 with not asking for any warranties, any assurances or contingencies at all. They've had it checked out. We've done the certifications on it, and they're happy with that. It goes in front of their council July 10th with the expectation that it's going to be approved because the individual, the supervisor and stuff are in support of it. So we started drafting documents to be able to do a quick turnaround. Going forward, if our goal is for us to place our order prior to July 25th to beat the next price increase. And this down payment will give us almost, well, at $500,000, the discount was almost $90,000. So if we do the 470, it'd be slightly less, but it'll take additional money off the cost of the ladder truck.
Through the chair. What community has made the offer so that we can send letters of encouragement?
Pittsfield.
I'm sorry?
Pittsfield?
Pittsfield.
Yeah, and actually Chief Hebner's son works for Ferndale Fire Department.
Okay.
He was the fire chief at Livonia, and now he's on, he retired, then became the chief at Pittsfield. So, good guy, he contacted me outside of going with the broker.
Nice.
They're very interested, so it's actually going to fit a need and really help their community out.
Any other questions? Council?
Through the chair, the only question I have, also, this is fabulous. I know I said it before, I'm saying it again, especially with the 470,000 to offset the cost of the quint, so that our net effect is really like 830,000.
Yeah.
It's a rockin' deal and a slam dunk, and I'm very excited. How do we get more of these? How do we have more of these wins in terms of budget efficiencies? And I'm asking that in a broad sense. I'm not asking it to you, Chief Robinson. I'm asking it to all of our city staff as just a point for the future as we keep on coming forward with these budget efficiencies on a quarterly basis. How do we get everybody in the mindset of that and identify things like this?
I would point, two things that I would point to that I think we are doing. I think we need to uplift things anymore, but some of these efficiencies are slow burns, right? This Medicare Advantage was 2 years in the making. This quint is now, but it won't arrive till 4 years from now. So some of these efficiencies are slow burn, but in both cases with Human Resources and Chief Robinson, I credit experience and their professional networks. They tapped their experience, and with Chief Robinson, I've said this before, her general regional knowledge, and this is a credit to Council's regionalism emphasis on our critical success factors, her regional knowledge and understanding of the amount of ladder trucks deployed and the actual need on a regional basis, told her that we're oversaturated as a region, and we have an efficiency opportunity here. That doesn't happen without a fire chief who has excellent experience and the initiative to make sure that Ferndale is leading on a regional perspective. And with Dan Jaycee's department, I would say the same thing with Human Resources Department. That opportunity to convert 16 retiree healthcare costs, this is not a fun job to really sort through all this and then take those one-on-one conversations. But the fact that the opportunity was there and recognized by years of experience from his office, and then he had the wherewithal to tap an employee who's been with us for less than 2 years and task him with a growth opportunity to really take on, recognizing that person's strengths with interpersonal relationships. That's incredible. And so all these things happen behind the scenes. They don't happen in 6 months. They're slow burns. But the impact is big. And in both cases, the impact is permanent. The other efficiencies in progress, and this is why I'm chuckling at myself, not knowing exactly what Rick was going to talk about, our light case study. And so I will say this has not been, it's not ready to present to council yet, but we did talk about this in the budget. So in the budget process, we talked about the cost of lighting. And so currently the city's parking lot lighting is owned by the city. Over the past several years, it's become increasingly difficult for the city to replace any legacy light poles, and light poles do have a useful shelf life, and ours are exceeding they're mostly end of life. They're older acorns or decorative acorn lamps that you would see. So we own all of these lights, and we pay for the street lighting bills right now, but we are responsible for the maintenance of those poles and replacing those poles, including the process of swapping out LED lights that we had purchased as a department over those years, and they've been tackling that as they could. What we have seen is long lead times, and I can give you one example. There was on West Troy Street outside of the DOT, the new light poles that were put in post-construction. Within a year, one was hit by a driver and knocked it over. It took over 12 months to actually replace that light pole. And so we just had the conduit coned off while we waited for the replacement. But a lot of that is a diseconomy of scale. The city, as a city, has less than 150 or 200 light poles that we have to replace. Well, when we try to acquire those and replace those, we're going against Consumers Energy and DTE. We're purchasing on a much larger scale, who have a much greater ability to get poles quicker than us. And so that's proven to be a problem for us on the maintenance side. But when James originally had his capital budget, which we do 5-year capital planning, and I saw the cost of our parking lots lights, I was flummoxed at over $450,000 to replace what we currently had. That is replacing what we have today as is, so with new Acorn lights. So I have a cost concern there, and I also have an efficiency concern there, because the lighting is generally inefficient, and we do get a lot of complaints about our the power of our lighting within our parking lots in terms of safety from businesses. That's a complaint you'll hear at a DDA meeting, and I've heard it as well. So what I did do was contact DTE, and I asked them if they could give me a 2 to 3 year plan that would see us shift from a owner model to a lease model, and that would involve them essentially acquiring our lights, demoing. Oh, I'm getting ahead of myself. That's the next slide. So our objectives when I reach out is looking for more efficient lighting from the cost side. From a climate side, we want a reduction in materials. We want a reduction in the number of lighting, because our lighting is quite inefficient. We also, with that, want to avoid light pollution spilling over into residential neighborhoods. We are in an urban community. We're quite dense, and we have a lot of residential houses that hug our downtown parking lots. And reduce our short-term and long-term energy costs from what we're paying right now. Those were the goals. And so they gave me a proposal, and it's not been formalized, and I'm waiting to vet that with Rick, actually, to see if he can give me some feedback from his network about their proposal. But this, in a nutshell, is what they have sent to me. Customer CIAC is a DTE acronym that just can be interpreted as our costs. So those are our upfront costs for the actual hardware. So $112,000, which is substantially less than the cost to replace all of our Acorns lighting today. And we will get those lights converted quicker and installed quicker. Our annual charges were reduced substantially. The net effect for the scope of work, this would involve them taking ownership of the light poles and responsibility for that. With that, they're removing all of the foundations and all those poles, and they're going to be installing your typical overhead street light, which is a replacement of the Acorn, which is more decorative. But I don't hear a lot of feedback about how our parking lots are adding a lot of place value. I think it's more of a place to park, and safe lighting is more probably, there's a greater emphasis on safe lighting than there is on place for those Acorns. But we do think that we should preserve the idea of place through lighting on our streets, and that's where the effort is probably worth more. So you'd be looking at Cobras with an 88-watt LED fixture. They are responsible for the new underground conductors and restoring any concrete removal, anything they demoed. We are responsible for the disconnections, and then they would install the new meters. So now these poles would be owned by them. They would be responsible for repairs, maintenance, and any of the supply chain side of things. And ultimately, we are now just billed for the energy and whatever costs they include for leasing the equipment inside that. What that shows in that spreadsheet is fewer poles resulted in a 10% reduction from in construction costs, just upfront hardware costs. The annual lighting bill expenses were reduced by 45% from what we're paying, and the lighting is going to be improved with fewer poles. Now, I still haven't received a full proposal, because I'm going to want to see the light pollution spillage, and I'm going to want to have them show me how they're going to prevent any spillage into the neighborhood, and they can do that with the photometric plan. So there's Rick's analysis and that photometric plan and a specific purchase agreement that has yet to be proposed. This is all just in concept, and this is what in concept was included in the budget. This dollar amount, that $112,000 amount, is what's included in the budget. Whether we take action on that and give you a recommendation waits to be seen, but it's in the budget. So that's an example of an initiative that's in process. The second one that Bruce can really talk to a little bit more tonight is merchant of record. These aren't, really interesting topics on the forefront. It's credit card processing, but it's also necessary costs for anyone who's running a point of sale system. You are going to be assessed credit card processing costs that really aren't passed through to the consumer. So these are all just our parking system costs. When we assumed control of the downtown parking system from the DDA, we inherited the First Data contract. And that First Data contract, First Data is a huge credit card processor. and one that we have been trying to investigate where the original contract terms were. Well, Bruce has finally helped us get down to that with the finance department, collaborating with Phil. We got the contact that we've been trying to chase for a couple of years now, and we have the contract, and we have an opportunity to pivot, and we are going to ask council to take that opportunity and just merge the credit card processing, take it out of this third party and mold it into a vendor that we already have a relationship with, and that's Passport Parking, who also offers a much more competitive rate, which is showed at this table here. The net cost reduction is about $56,000 in credit card processing fees, and we do believe that that is possible as soon as we get a final proposal to council for review. The city attorney is reviewing that with Bruce. And I will hold those questions because Bruce can take those as soon as he gives his parking presentation on the regular agenda.
So Joe, I was just wondering, regarding this report, will this be made public? Will it be on the website?
It will be, yes. There's, James said there's copies in the back there, and we will be presenting this, and as this is the first report, we'll be communicating that widely. But this will become, we'd like this to become part of the annual budget process. It's a deliverable before the fiscal year turns. We can always look back and celebrate some efficiencies and progress we've made to do so. I think it was a great council recommendation this year. It's the first, and as I said in my cover letter, I expect it's an iterative process. We want your feedback so we can build a report that meets your expectations and the public expectations moving forward. But it's a good starting point.
Through the chair, going back to the DTE and the parking lots, I'm a little confused because we had an expert that was here that says that DTE is terrible at maintaining their lighting system, and yet the proposal is to switch our lighting to DTE. So I understand the want and the need for cost savings, but are we trying to save money just to get worse service? I'm confused.
I'd go back to my example of the West Troy streetlight. In that case, I don't know that we could offer supreme services because ultimately we were subject of a supply chain in a system that we're not the lead dog in. So that was 12 months to replace one light bulb. And I don't know that that's
A light bulb?
Yeah, the lamp.
Oh.
No, well, the light pole.
Oh.
The whole thing is, it's
Yeah.
12 months to get it. The light bulb, we can go get at Ace.
Well, to me, I would have thought that we would have like bought an extra one because you know that you're always going to have to do some kind of repair. So maybe that's on us.
There have been, that's not to say that they're not run through.
Yeah.
All of these light poles are older, and I can let James speak more to the operations side of things, but.
Yeah, well, but do we risk, if you go to any community, they all have different light poles, these decorative poles. So if they're going to start replacing them, are we just going to have a hodgepodge because, we don't have this style, so we're just going to put the one that we have in Hazel Park or?
The acorns that we use are pretty standard, and the acorns are what were replaced at the dot. If you look at West Troy Street, those are acorns. And that's a standard, you'll see that acorn standard in Northville and most Plymouth and most smaller downtowns. You'll see the acorn. It's a standard. I think we're saying is focus on defining your use of those acorn lights, which, they're less efficient, they're more costly and more difficult to source because they're not just the spare Cobra stock, which are more common. So we're saying, pick your spots where you want to use that. Invest in that to define your places where people meet and make those places more special by offering them. So that would be the West 9 Mile streetscape. Schiffer Park, West Troy Street would be that place. But, maybe not the North Breckenridge lot, for an example. Might not be that same space.
Through the chair, if I may
there he
piggyback
is.
off of what you were saying, is this an opportunity to explore some of that regionalism that you were talking about that we so value with Chief Robinson? Could we potentially have some sort of consortium of cities that can negotiate better rates on these light poles as well as the light bulbs and everything that goes with it?
With the downtowns, there's few downtowns that have them in our region, but that is, I can't speak for Detroit, that's a larger thing, but, Royal Oak and Birmingham certainly could be collaborative opportunities. And Jim, you might, I don't know if you do collaborate with any other downtowns on lighting? Or DPWs, rather.
Yeah, we do not. The maintenance cost for lights isn't really included in this, but I did just want to address Greg's question. So we have lights in service all the way back to 1991 for some of them. So we have about 30 or 40 years of lights that have been discontinued, and you wouldn't really be able to tell the difference unless you studied it and looked at it. The ones here are pretty old. The ones at the dot are newer, much lighter. They're actually fiberglass as opposed to metal, but it is a similar style, and it has been for 40 years.
So that one's in motion, and that one's being studied still. We don't have a formal recommendation. Clearly, we don't have all the analysis done. And I think the regional, yeah, I'm a big advocate for regionalism, and we'll promote that, anything we're looking at.
Through the chair, is that something that we can help facilitate by reaching out to our colleagues and other councils and things like that to see if we can sort of generate some support or interest for like-minded colleagues in neighboring cities? I mean, I don't want to step on your toes in the work you're doing, but,
Yeah.
would that be helpful at all?
I think, step one would be getting an operational inventory and contacting them at the DPW level and just, getting a sense of what their light inventory is, what their age is, and if they view it as a budget crunch, as we view it as a budget crunch. And then if there's some alignment there, I think, what I can say is we have a proposal. You guys as directors understand the supply chain. You're working with the same vendors. They are generally the same vendors. Then we can have a conversation. And then if there's ground, then I think absolutely. It's always helpful to have council-to-council alignment.
I think it's just so important to center what we've seen at this presentation, that we really are making incredible strides for cost efficiencies and savings. I mean, Chief Robinson, Dan, and Emmanuel, I mean, these are incredible things. These are not small amounts of money for a city like us. And, I just really want us to celebrate this and let the residents know we really are working hard on finding these savings where we can and being as efficient as we can. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I think that gets you to your consent agenda.
This is the time where we have our call to audience. Audience members, you can come up to the podium and speak about anything in which you'd like, on the agenda or off the agenda. So this is your opportunity. Okay. So now we're moving on to the consent agenda. Item 7A, approval of the June 10th, 2024 meeting minutes. 7B, approval to purchase two 2024 Dodge Durangos from LaFontaine CDJR Lansing with accessories to be purchased and installed by Canfield Equipment Service, Inc. and Majik Graphics for $135,217 to be financed over 5 years with Comerica Bank. 7C, approval of the water pump station network security upgrades. 7D, approval of Wilson Park and Dog Park access control updates. 7E, approval of the property agreement between, that's Bieber, Properties LLC for 22925 Woodward Avenue. 7F, approval of changes to the collective bargaining agreement between the City of Ferndale and the Ferndale DPW Supervisors Union. 7G, approval of the payment of renewal dues to the Michigan Municipal Association for Utility Issues, AKA MI Maui, in the amount of $6,734.60. 7H, approval of the listed appointments and reappointments to city boards and commissions. 7I, approval of wage increase for non-union administrative employees. 7J, approval of the purchase of the .45 Sig Sauer P3 209mm firearms with Romeo 1 optics and level 3 duty holsters for a total of $26,727.60 from Vance's Law Enforcement. 7K, approval of the memorandum of understanding between the City of Ferndale Police Department and Oakland County Sheriff's Department for the team and distribution of high-intensity drug trafficking area grant funds. 7L, approval of MOU establishing a series of free yoga sessions to take place at Geary Park, located at 1198 Earl Boulevard in Ferndale, and authorization for the Parks and Recreation Director to execute the agreement. 7M, approval to amend the fee schedule to allow city rentals at the Detroit Curling Club. 7N, approval of the Ferndale fiscal year '24 fourth quarter budget amendment. 7O, approval to backfill one customer service representative CSR position in the Department of Public Works. 7P, approval of bills and payrolls as submitted by the Finance Director and subject to review by the Council Finance Committee. Got it. All right. All right. Who will entertain a motion to accept the consent agenda?
I move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Excuse me.
Support.
Johnson,
Yes.
Polika,
Yes.
Kelly,
Yes.
Mikulski,
Yes.
Weeks May.
Yes. And before we move on to the regular agenda, I do see that we have a new board and commission member who is here in the audience to please come up and introduce yourself.
Hello, everyone. My name is Reed Turnbull, and I'm going to be a new commission member of the FESC. I think I've met most of you. I'll say today was really exciting. I'm an electrical engineer at Ford Motor Company. I work on headlights and taillights, so all this talk about lighting and energy really filled up my notebook. But anyway, I'm really looking forward to working with the city and the FESC, hopefully advise on some of these energy-related topics and other things. I'll just tell a quick story. So, I've been trying to beat the heat the last couple weeks, as many of us have been. I've been hanging out a lot in my basement, and I was dusting, spider webs and stuff in the corners. And up in the joists of my basement, I noticed a little hunk of coal. Now, my house was built in 1942, and a lot of homes in Ferndale are very, very old. And I just started thinking about how this city has evolved over the years, and I'm excited to see it to continue to evolve. And I think most of us don't heat our houses with coal anymore. And there's just so many great ways, high-tech and low-tech, that we can reduce our footprint in our homes, double pane glass and foam insulation, easier things like that, and even more advanced technologies as well, like heat pumps and solar panels. So I'm very excited to see how our city changes over the years. Maybe in a few years, we won't be getting Dodge Durangos. We might be getting performance hybrids or EVs. Really a lot of opportunities. Obviously, we have challenges as well, so I'm excited to find compromises and work together to get a brighter and cleaner Ferndale. So thanks very much. It's nice to meet you all. And I guess I'll be here next month. For anyone who wants to join FESC meetings, we meet the first Monday of every month at 6 o'clock. So we could use some more resident attendance. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
And they meet in the city hall.
Yep.
Already doing FESC work. Thank you so much. All right, now onto the regular agenda. So our new item 8A will be the approval for the Department of Public Works to enter into an agreement to provide landscaping and maintenance services for Ferndale's Downtown Development Authority, and I believe James Jameson will be presenting on that.
Thank you, Mayor. So it's a lot of text. I couldn't memorize the whole thing, but it's important to start with the mission statement of our DDA division. Our mission at the Ferndale Department of Public Works DDA division is to deliver essential services to the DDA department, DDA board, and local business owners with professionalism and efficiency. We're committed to enhancing and maintaining the aesthetic appeal of downtown spaces for our community and partners. With a focus on cleanliness and safety, we embrace the challenge of beautifying urban environments using landscaping and decorations, turning obstacles into opportunities for fulfillment. So the landscape maintenance agreement includes a lot of things. The basic scope of work is what you would expect. So bed maintenance, tree planting, maintenance of trees, pruning, flower planting. We order those every year. We plant, I believe, about 1,000 flats, 200 hanging baskets. We power wash the sidewalks. We set up the seasonal decorations depending on the season. That includes Christmas lights. We'll have some flags up for 4th of July. We do trash and waste pickup throughout the parking lot, downtown area. We cover special events, and I've got some miscellaneous items because as they come up, somebody smashes glass, graffiti, anything downtown dealing with our trash compactors, our DDA crew is there to fix it. In 23-24, and that contract comes to a close on June 30th. That is, I believe, there was 3-year approval and then maybe 2 extensions, maybe just 1 extension, but we've been in this contract for at least 4 to 5 years. The regular timing of that is 5 a.m. through 3 p.m. throughout the summer. On weekends, they come in to do trash pickup and watering, and that ends up being approximately 4,600 hours annually. It was a little higher last year, it was about 4,800 hours. The increase for labor rate is about 4 to 6% year to year. This year it was 4%. The extension, I believe, was 4% as well. And the heavy hours are March through December. Last year, DPW made the decision that we did not have the capacity to continue doing snow removal for the DDA, and we still are in the same position this year. DDA approved at their board a new 1-year contract for the 2025 year. 2 weeks ago, last week. The 2025 contract changes include a 4%, as I said, labor rate increase to bring the hourly rate to $40.64. This includes benefits and salary for 3 employees in the DDA division. We added 200 hours to the contract. We typically would go over by roughly 200 on average, so we thought it was important to add those since we were doing that work already. We had a fuel and inflation surcharge for $10,000 that was a part of the contract, but it was kind of obscure and it wasn't really clear what it was there for. We ended up using MDOT rental rates and added the vehicle and trailer rental fees for using the equipment throughout the season. And I can't remember what the rates are off the top of my head, but looking at the number of hours that were used, we came up with about $11,622 for those 2 pieces of equipment. The total cost of the intergovernmental contract is $205,815. And I should have mentioned that you'll see some areas in the DDA that we have made improvement to. The first one that I would point out, and should have pointed out earlier, is that this is one of the bike corrals on on northbound Woodward coming up to 9 Mile. And I think we have 5 more locations where those will be installed. But our DDA basically does all the little things that makes downtown Ferndale look the way it does. So all these little things that we don't maybe notice when we're walking down the sidewalks. And I included this map to just kind of show, this is an overextension of the area, but I like the way this map looks. It shows the DDA and it goes a little further in the patio zone, but within this you can kind of see there's 3 alleyways that we focus on and try to beautify and do a lot of work on. You'll see flowers and improvements that are made at 9 Mile and Woodward. That's one of the big focus areas. And then there's these other smaller areas that we don't really recognize, like the Withington Wall, where we really spend time and plant flowers and make every small corner of the city as we can look a little bit nicer. So that is roughly it. And I believe Jenny's here as well, if there's any questions for her.
That up to council for questions regarding the contract.
Through the chair, could we circle back to the slide talking about the snow removal and the bandwidth for that? I just wanted to get some clarity on why that's not included, and is there the opportunity to, I don't know, price that out as a standalone item or find a plan for snow removal? Because last year was miserable walking through the downtown after snow and ice. And it is my assumption that if we don't have that snow removal, that it's basically up to the business owners. Is that correct?
I believe that is the way that it went this current year. I think the intention going forward is to enter into a contract with a contractor to provide those services. For us, it's just hard to guarantee that we'll be able to respond in a timely manner when we have so many other areas of the city that are a higher priority for us than the downtown sidewalks.
Okay.
It's going to add to that. DDA has put that in our budget. We understand the work that the DPW did before was on a contractual basis. We recognize that might not even be the best competency for that DPW labor. So we are working with Jim and his team to understand like what would a proposal look like for that. So we do fully intend to have that taken care of for the downtown. In the next year, we've got that budgeted, so we'll be beginning that procurement process later on this year.
Outstanding. Thank you.
Through the chair. Why is it only 1 year?
It is only 1 year because we don't really have a clear understanding of what our labor rates are going to be following this year. Our ASME contract, which is the laborers for DPW, expires June 30, 2025. So we decided to go with 1 year because we know a 4% labor rate will account for the labor rate increase starting July 1, but we aren't really sure what that's going to look like July 2025.
Okay.
Through the chair, additionally, the DDA board wanted to get some proposals out there, their rates, because there's nothing to compare to currently.
I will say that when it's been about 5 years that DPW has been doing this service. Prior to that, we were using a company called Worry Free. And we were paying a lot of money to Worry Free, and they were really not providing a very good service. And one of the advantages of having the DPW provided is we have a self-interest. You know, our employees care about our city. Worry Free would come through and they'd water the plants and they'd leave. You know, if something was damaged, if something needed attention, they wouldn't, you know, they wouldn't care unless we asked them to do it. Whereas, you know, our DPW is on call 24, well, not 24/7 for the downtown, but pretty much if it's an emergency, yeah. So there is, you know, there is an advantage of having it done in-house. So, thank you.
Thank you, Greg, for mentioning that. Excuse me, Councilmember Polika. it is something that has been recognized by Main Street Oakland County and Main Street America, that this is an exceptional partnership that we have in Ferndale. Several of the DDA division team members have grown up in Ferndale. They have a connection to the city that we don't see in other communities. And there have been several instances with, like, one of the things that was mentioned with broken glass. There was a vandalism incident downtown, and one of the crew members cleaned that up, but also took pictures to make sure that would help with law enforcement and insurance claim for that property owner, or that business owner. So it's really been noted by a lot of outsiders that this is a fantastic partnership, and so we're hopefully and very excited to continue this.
Any other questions, comments, to council?
I move that we approve the one-year contract between the Department of Public Works and the Ferndale Downtown Development Authority for landscaping and maintenance services, and authorize the mayor and city clerk to sign the agreement as submitted by DPW Director.
Support.
Mikulski?
Yes.
Johnson?
Yes.
Kelly?
Yes.
Polika?
Yes.
Leaks May.
Yes. And did you get, I don't know who you chose for the second, but I'm sure you got it. Okay.
I won't do it again. I won't do it.
All right. All right, so item 8B will be consideration of the purchase of the 10 Flowbird parking pay stations from Kale America, Inc., with upfront capital costs of $60,600 and ongoing service fees in the annual amount of $10,920. And I believe Bruce is presenting.
Thank you. Let me get my presentation
Excuse me.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, council member, city manager. I'm Bruce Campbell from Park Ferndale. This contract is a contract that we plan to execute with a company called Flowbird. The intent or the need for it is to replace our existing kiosk inventory. The kiosks that we have out on the street right now, or in our parking lots and on the street, most of them have reached their end of life. So in preparation for the end of life of these kiosks, we are planning to enter into a contract with a vendor different from the existing contract that we have, or different from the existing kiosk hardware that we have out there right now. And I'll just talk about this real briefly. I'll just leave it up here.
Kara, could you help?
Yeah, okay. So here we have a picture of the kiosk that we contemplate purchasing with your approval. This kiosk you have seen before, most of you, I'm sure everybody's seen it before who's been in downtown Detroit. This is the same unit that they use. It's a solar-powered kiosk, and it uses a battery backup. I think the key differences between what we're presenting here and what we have now is there's a touch screen. It operates with a touch screen as opposed to a keypad. I think that is, a more common technology that more customers, it's more customer-friendly than we have right now with the keypad. The other big difference in this kiosk, as opposed to what we have right now, is it has near-field communication, so you can touch to pay as opposed to inserting your card. I think that's a big improvement, or we think it's a big improvement over what we have now. These kiosks are very durable. I actually have been in conversations, or had conversations with the City of Detroit parking administrator, who, you know, they have these deployed all over downtown Detroit. The nearest other location for these kiosks, they have them deployed in Scranton, Ohio. I'm sorry, Scranton, where's? Pennsylvania. Yeah. Scranton, Pennsylvania. Des Moines, Iowa. There's several other major cities that have these kiosks deployed. One of the key things, or one of the benefits of having a major deployment nearby is for us to be able to have easy access to parts and maintenance issues. So I'm going to go to the next slide. Oh, and that information that you see on the side of this kiosk is simply very similar to what we have on our kiosk, just information on downloading the app, or you know, different methods of payment. So one of the things I wanted to do is show the comparison between the other kiosks that we got proposals for. The one that we're looking at is highlighted right there. As you can see, the extended cost per unit, we didn't go into this looking for the lowest price. I want to say that up front. We went into this looking for the most, what fit what we needed the most. But Flowbird, the company that we're wanting to contract with, does have the lowest price, has a nearby major operation, and also offers some things that I mentioned earlier that some of the other kiosks do not offer, that being the near field communication and the touchscreen. I didn't create a lot of slides here. I think this is pretty straightforward. The planned deployment, you know, we plotted where we want to deploy this initial purchase that we're asking for. We want to cover the east side of Woodward first, and we have a couple of smaller lots that over by One-Eyed Betty's that we want to deploy them over there as well. In this process, we will be removing the current kiosk that we have and not replacing some of them. For instance, in lot 15 up there, you see we have one plotted up in that location. There's actually two there now, but we don't plan on redeploying two. We only are going to use one, and we're trying to tie that into another payment solution that we are going to propose, and it's in this contract as well. There's a text-to-pay solution that we're planning to implement. That text-to-pay option for customers, what other cities are seeing is that option is reducing the amount of hardware that you have, that cities have to have on the street. We refer to it as hardware light. So again, for, you know, the overall goal is to reduce the amount of hardware that we have deployed and provide other options for people to pay for their parking. The other thing that we took into consideration when doing this is, you know, the percentage of mobile pay that we currently experience. We're upwards of 70% of our transactions total across the board, which, you know, the benefit of that, or what we derive from that, is we don't need as much hardware on the street and in the parking lots as we have now. Looking at another area right here in lot 13, you see that one dot right there. Right now, there's two kiosks there, but we're going to reduce that to one, and that theme carries out throughout our entire system. So over the course of 3 years, we're hoping to reduce our entire footprint, our entire hardware footprint by approximately 60%. Now, I say that hopefully with the understanding that, you know, those are not, as we make these changes, we do need the flexibility to adjust if we need to adjust. You know, if we remove a kiosk and it turns out there's a negative impact, then, you know, we need the flexibility to be able to say, okay, we may not, we may not be able to reduce here as much as we thought we were, but the goal is to reduce the overall footprint of hardware on the street. Joe talked about earlier a cost savings that we've been looking at in relation to our merchant processing fees. So that contract isn't part of this contract. That contract is a contract that you'll see in maybe the next few weeks or the next month or so. But that's part of our overall strategy to reduce costs. This will reduce costs as well, but we limit the number of kiosks, or we reduce the number of kiosks that we maintain, at the same time maintaining high levels of customer service. And it's a win for the customer, and it's a win for the city. It's a win for the parking fund. Because, you know, there's a slide, and I did not, so if you don't show, here there's a slide that shows the current monthly fees that we're paying right now. Is $55 per kiosk per month. The units that we're buying, it's actually $59 per kiosk per month, but there's an added fee that's wrapped into that $59 for the near field communications. That costs $9 per month, or no, it's $6 per month, I'm sorry. So I don't want to get too far in the weeds there, but there's an overall cost savings. We will reduce the amount of kiosks overall that we have deployed. At the same time, that's going to reduce the cost of the kiosks are cheaper. One, less expensive is a better way to say that. And two, with the reduction in the number of overall kiosks that we have, will reduce our monthly costs overall through the course of the contract. So, do people have questions?
So, I was just going to ask, so with the reduction of kiosks and the potential for, I don't know, lines at the kiosks, are we looking for the text-to-pay to kind of eliminate that a little bit?
Well, there's a couple of things. In our busier locations, we'll be more sensitive about reducing the number of kiosks there, like Lot 3, for instance. That's a very busy lot right over here by Como's. That's a busy lot as well. So we'll be sensitive about the number of kiosks that we reduce. However, we do anticipate that the additional payment options will reduce, that backup if there is any. And, what we're seeing, or what we talk about when we went through the process of selecting this vendor for text-to-pay is just, what's the utilization rate of text-to-pay? And the text-to-pay to mobile pay utilization, anecdotally, is very similar to mobile pay methods, but text-to-pay rivals downloading the app and using the app. So I think offering text-to-pay at the same time that we're reducing the hardware footprint will compensate.
Through the chair. So a few questions. have you, I'm assuming that you've reached out to other communities that are currently using this system to get their opinion?
Yeah, primarily, I've talked to the parking administrator for the city of Detroit, and, you know, his feedback is the machines, they work great, we have to keep up on the maintenance. So there's self-maintenance that we perform, and that we perform on the kiosks that we have now, which is part of the reason why they've lasted so long, is, you know, we've got a team of people on our staff that are very familiar with the machines themselves, and, you know, we do the preventative maintenance on a daily basis.
Yeah, and so my next question was going to be, how long did those communities have them? You know, because over time, you know, the maintenance on systems, because we're repairing the ones we have now more often than we did 8 years ago. You know, so I'm wondering about the lifespan, you know. So these have lasted us pretty well.
They have.
Compared to a lot of other systems. It was a good investment.
They have. We've gotten our money's worth out of these kiosks. And, you know, the feedback I get from some of our other colleagues and from my peers in other cities is that, you know, the lifespan for these are comparable to what we have now. And I think, you know, there's probably 5 or 6 market leaders. These are 4 of them right here. But essentially, these machines will last as long as you perform the preventative maintenance, to a certain extent. What we're seeing right now with our machines is, you know, some of the more expensive hardware in the system is starting to fail. You know, there's a device called a controller inside the system. It costs a couple of $1,000s to replace, and we're starting to need to replace those more and more. So I can provide our maintenance cost for, you know, if that's something that people want to see, but you know, we think that, you know, the maintenance on the machines is what creates the longevity.
Yeah. Well, and one of my concerns is, you know, we're going to a touchpad, and those tend to be a little costly, you know, and those are probably going to be one of the first things to break because people keep pushing on them, and they're sensitive. So my big concern is we're going to be replacing those probably rather often.
Well, I can say this, you know, we are replacing right now, the keypads that we have on the machines that we have now are about $300 per keypad, and those touch screens are comparable. Yeah. I don't have a sense, or I don't have my price listing for those right now, but you know, I think as we deploy these, we'll have a better feel for what that looks like from a maintenance standpoint.
Two questions, just. So one of my concerns, and I believe you're addressing it, is you're rolling it out in phases. You know, right. You're not doing it across the city. That was one of the problems that we had when we first rolled out these machines 12 years ago. 2012, yeah, 12 years ago, was that it was the middle of February, they rolled them out to every parking lot, and all of a sudden you had people coming in, snowing, cold, and they're trying to figure out what these machines are across the whole downtown. So thankfully, it's not the middle of winter, and I do appreciate that you're doing it as a rollout. And then the last thing that I'd like to know is, since we're going to have so much cost savings, is there an opportunity to create shelters? Because that's probably one of, if not the first, very much the second complaint that I have is it's raining and I'm standing there and I'm entering in my information and I'm getting soaking wet.
I think that's a discussion we'll have to have with the city manager offline, but where that savings goes, it doesn't go directly back into the system as far as infrastructure goes. But we actually removed a couple of those shelters from right beside Bobcat Bonnie's year before last, I think, and we have not replaced them, and we haven't put together a plan to replace them, but it's definitely a discussion we can have.
Thank you.
Through the chair, I have questions too. First, let me make sure that I've got the math right. So we're going from 48 kiosks down to 10. Do we anticipate adding more kiosks in the future?
Yes. Going back to the phased approach that we're talking about. So we're not removing all 48 when we get to 10.
Right.
We're selectively removing a portion of them in the lots that were on the map. And then when we go to the next phase, we'll remove some more, but they won't all be removed at the same time.
Will we be building back up to 48 kiosks or substantially less?
No, we ultimately want to reduce our hardware footprint. The goal is 60%. If, if there are issues that occur that make that less feasible, then we have time to make the adjustment.
Are we thinking, so if we're going to have this rollout of 10 kiosks, and the reason I'm asking this, full disclosure, full transparency, where my mind's at. Doing the math, 10 kiosks, we have an annual cost of about, let's call it 10,000, maybe 11,000. Our 48 kiosks have an annual cost of around 31,000?
55,000 times, yeah, 30,000.
So I'm trying to get to my absolute cost savings because I'm thinking about our next quarterly budget efficiency presentation, and I would love to have that number, but I don't want to have that number and have it be an inaccurate number if we are planning on adding 30 more kiosks at some point or 10 more kiosks.
Well, so we have funding in our budget right now for the 10. In the upcoming July 1st, we have capital for additional kiosk purchases, which we plan to purchase 10 now and 8 to 10 next year. Yeah. So that's essentially the software as a service cost. That $59 per kiosk is hard locked into the contract.
Okay, that's fair. Let's talk a little bit about warranties, because you spooked me when you said getting parts from downtown Detroit because Detroit's using the same models. Immediately, I started thinking about that maintenance cost. Going through the contract, there is a section, Appendix D and Appendix E, concerning extended parts warranties and preventative maintenance visits that we could enable in Section 2 of the contract, but we have chosen not to. The only thing that's there is a list price of 4 X's per machine. Do we have those price points? Is that something that we scoped out for the contract?
Actually, and I have a quote for the 10. The company wrapped in a 2-year parts warranty into the quote itself that I know we haven't signed it yet, but there's a 2-year warranty on all parts. And there's a recommended inventory that we keep on hand that, we have pricing on that as well. It's not part of this because we haven't bought it yet because we have a 2-year warranty. But we do anticipate being able to control those costs and not wait for extended times for parts once we get to that point.
It would be fabulous to have kind of that cost breakdown.
I can do that.
Obviously, we don't have it tonight, but in the future, a cost breakdown of that and what parts we think are most prone to failure. Again, knowing touchpads often fail. If those are part of that 2-year warranty, that would also be really nice to know.
Yeah, so the 2-year warranty covers all the parts.
All parts, okay.
All the parts, yes. But I can provide the pricing for after the 2 years. And the 2 years start when we receive the units.
Okay.
Or I think it's 30 days after we receive the units. So, yeah, I can provide that.
Awesome, thank you.
Just one additional question. So it sounds like you said that we're budgeted for the 10 kiosks.
Yes, ma'am.
But we're looking for maybe 8 to 10 more next year. Can we look at this same price point, or are we expecting to
The
see
same,
something different?
these prices are locked in for 3 years.
Locked in for 3 years?
Yes.
And I just have one question through the chair to Pro Tem Mikulski's question about the warranty. So love that we have a 2-year coverage. Do we have the option to exercise during that, or as we get to the end of that 2 years, can we extend that or purchase an extension to the warranty?
We can.
If we wished. I
We
mean, I'm not
can.
saying we might want to, but could we if we
Yes,
thought
we
it was
can.
prudent? Okay. Okay.
Additional questions?
I move we approve the purchase agreement with Kale America, Inc., DBA Flowbird, in the amount of $60,600 to be paid from account 514-000-977-000, and the annual services agreement in the amount of $10,920 to be paid from contractual services account 514-000-818-000, as submitted by the parking director.
Support.
Johnson?
Yes.
Polika?
Yes.
Kelly?
Yes.
Mikulski?
Yes.
Leaks May?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bruce.
Thank you.
And now we're on to our added item, 8C, which is the motion to approve the Community Energy Management Grant application that we heard about earlier.
Through the chair, I move to approve the application submission of the Eagle Community Energy Management Grant and Energy Sciences as the contractor for services outlined in the grant.
Polika?
Yes.
Kelly?
Yes.
Johnson?
Yes.
Mikulski?
Yes.
Leaks May?
Yes. That carries. All right. So now we are at the point where we're at call to council, and I will turn it over to the city manager for department head updates.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. We'll begin with the communications director, or the communications office, rather.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm here to let you know that the next edition of our quarterly print newsletter is going to be out around or even before July 1st. So this is our summer edition. It covers content for July, August, and September. So to kick things off with our newsletter, our city manager goes into the ballot proposals that are going to be on the November election. Following that, we have information from Public Works about trash delays, yard waste, flooding, storm care procedures. And then following that, we have sustainability with compost. We have an overview of our election, a lot of our upcoming Parks and Recreation programming, sports, events. And then we have information about property taxes, as well as fireworks, fire safety, ways to get involved with the police department, and then our summer events and how to get involved with our downtown. So that'll be out, like I said, on or before July 1st. It is delivered to mailboxes, and then there are also additional copies here at City Hall and then online as well. So reach out to me for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Riley. Next, Robert, our Deputy Parks and Director.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Just a few updates from Parks Department. Our second community engagement meeting for the Martin Road facility design will be scheduled for this Thursday at 6 p.m. at the Detroit Curling Club. At this meeting, we'll have, we added activities for youth so that folks with families and kids can be able to be there and to encourage more participation. So that'll be Thursday at 6 p.m., so mark that down. Yesterday, we hosted Music in the Park with the Ferndale Community Concert Band. That was at Martin Road Park. The event was well received. We had a turnout of around 100 to 125 guests. That's my estimation. and they were enjoying the music and the cooler temperatures on yesterday. Right now, we have registration open for fall sports, which includes soccer and adult softball. And then I'll go ahead and announce yoga at the park at Geary Park, since you guys approved the agreement tonight. It starts Monday, July 1st, and will be held on Mondays from 6 to 7:30 until August 26th. And lastly, this is a little farther out, but on July 18th, which is a Thursday, we have our annual Park It Family Fun Night, and that'll be at Harding Road Park. The event features live music, food, giveaways, activities for the kids, and a movie. That event starts around 6 p.m., and the movie usually begins around 8:15. And that's all that I have. Thank you.
Through the chair. So the community meeting that's scheduled for this Thursday.
Yes.
This is the second one. The first one was 2 weeks ago, roughly?
June 6th.
June 6th. Is this going to be identical to the one that was at the first one? Because there was a lot of people there. If you attended that one, do you need to attend this one because different topics are going to be covered? Or are they basically just covering the same topics to a different group of people?
Yeah, and James, you can help me with this one, but this one is focused on narrowing down the design of the facility based on the input that we received from the previous meeting.
Okay.
Yeah, that was pretty much exactly what I was going to say.
Okay.
There's going to be some kind of presenting of the results from the first night, as well as the survey that's been out.
Okay. So what is?
So it is going to be different.
Okay, so what's the objective then for this meeting?
Narrowing down a little bit more of the specific space needs.
Okay.
Everything.
Yeah, because, I mean, basically it was, let's do everything.
Right, yeah, so the first meeting, we're kind of starting up here, and we're funneling everything down.
Okay. So we should encourage people that attended the first meeting to also attend this one as well, because it is going to be a different
Absolutely, encourage
conversation.
everybody to come.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Robert, I'd also just observe Emmanuel is not here plugging summer camp because he's in the thick of summer camp. And can you just confirm, were we able to double the occupancy list and just remind me if we were able to do that? Because I think that took us to 100 campers, right?
We took the camp from 100 to 180 kids, and it has sold out every week. He did mention today that he's still looking for a few extra camp counselors, so if you know anybody looking for, any youth looking for a summer job, tell them to hit us up.
And did you say the yoga in the park is every Monday?
Every Monday, July 1st to August 26th. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next, I'll have Phil share everybody's favorite topic.
Good evening, Council. Two things, really. We are ending our fiscal year, so everybody on my team is pretty much scrambling to make sure we get everything in. To that end, with the end of the fiscal year becomes the beginning of the new fiscal year, and tax bills. So the property tax bills, we have delivered the proofs, and we're waiting for the final proof to come back to approve. Those should be hitting the mailboxes next week. Hopefully earlier next week as opposed to later next week, but with the holiday, it will be next week. I'm just not sure exactly when they're going to hit respective mailboxes. Also, with the property tax bills, we included last year an insert that we thought was very helpful for residents to kind of show where their money goes. So that insert will also be included again. It was well received last year, and we got a lot of positive feedback, so we went with it again. We do that for both the summer and winter tax bills, include that insert. So that will be happening, and that's pretty much it.
Through the chair. And information about how to pay through coupons is going to be included in that?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Anything else?
Thank you, Phil. Next, our CE Director, Roger Caruso, will just provide a brief update on the code rewrite.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm excited to announce that soon you will get
the code rewrite. As we near the end of it, we're finding it's sort of like zippering when we're trying to bring all these pieces together. So we received a final draft the other day. I have corrected it over the weekend. We'll get it back to them tomorrow. We are going to create some committees at the Planning Commission, have them review some sections over the next 2 weeks. We sent it off to the City Attorney's Office today, and then we will meet with the Planning Commission and the Steering Committee. We will talk about the sections we need to talk to and also about the ending community engagement we will do, which there's some talk about doing another community meeting, sending out randomized letters like we did last time, updating the website. So we'll have the steering committee's input on how to get the community back involved, and then we will have a workshop with Planning Commission, and then a final presentation to Planning Commission for recommendation to come to City Council. So stay tuned for that. It's always taking longer than we thought, so we're thinking it's going to be August, pushing into September. But I think the City Manager's Office shared with you maybe a kind of Gantt chart on what we were thinking for the rollout. So still little things changing, but we're getting closer.
Thank you, Roger. Dean, if you got an update on the election?
Yeah, we'll be having another election on August 6th coming up for the primary election. We're currently working on getting all of our ballots packaged out so we get them sent out. We have about 4,200 of them for this election, and we are aiming to have those mailed out by Thursday. If it doesn't happen on Thursday, it will happen the following Monday.
And Jenny from the DDA.
It's summertime, yay! It's time to be outdoors, enjoy downtown Ferndale. 2 ways you can do that are coming up. The first is the Pig and Whiskey Festival that will return to Ferndale on Friday, July 12th, and going through that Sunday, the 14th. Also on Sunday, the 14th, is our first 9-on-9 concert series that will be at 4 p.m. at Schiffer Park, the intersection of Planavon and 9 Mile. This is free. We have 9 of these throughout the summer from July 14th until mid-September. So if you can't make that first one, please come out for any of the remaining Sundays in the summer. We have an incredible lineup this year with a lot of diverse performers between musical styles and new folks that will be entertaining Ferndale and visitors. So please come and join us.
Thank you, Jenny. And I'll close with 4th of July and omnibus of updates. So we'll begin with the fire chief, if she would kick us off on our 4th of July updates. You want me to switch it up?
All right, so coming into 4th of July, it's a great time of year. I love 4th of July and all the fireworks. However, as a firefighter, it also makes us cringe because not everybody does it responsibly. So my call to council is to remind everybody, have fun, be safe. Sparklers are really popular, but they're not age appropriate for young children, and it's not uncommon for children to be burned by sparklers. So please ensure age appropriateness of what's being used. Have a bucket of water to drop them in immediately after they go off so you don't have the incidental burns of, because those are extremely hot. Also, only adults should set off fireworks in compliance with our ordinance and laws that Chief Emmy will cover, so that everybody, again, we have good time and you don't get it disrupted by one of us showing up and, dampening your fun. And we often see adults feeling like if I'm there, it's okay to let the kids light the fireworks because I'm here. It's not. Please, adults only. We're getting good rain, which is great. If it happens to really dry out before the July, really be careful of that too. If you have dry brush and stuff in your yard, think about where you're lighting them off. Again, only compliant, and let's all be safe and have a great time. And there's a lot of really fun alternatives now. I don't know if you've seen them. There's some bubble machines that looks like fireworks going off, but it's actually bubbles with LEDs behind them, and they're super cool. So there's some really fun, great alternatives that make it even safe for little kiddos up to big kiddos. So explore those.
Thank you, Chief. Chief number 2, but not second best. They're equal.
Thank you. It's probably debatable. Yes, to follow up on Chief Robinson. So the laws concerning fireworks changed back in 2019, you're able to launch fireworks from June 29th to July 5th, because the 5th falls on a Friday or Saturday this year. So from June 29th to July 5th, you're allowed to use fireworks from 11 a.m. to 11:45 p.m., after which it becomes against the ordinance, and there can be a $1,000 fine for each occurrence outside of those hours. So keep that in mind. And also, you have to use them safely on private property. You're not allowed to launch fireworks from public property or parks. So keep that in mind. I also, we want to keep the Oakland County Sheriff's Department in our thoughts. They lost a deputy in the line of duty who was shot and killed, involved in a stolen car investigation in the city of Detroit. So our hearts go out to our friends at the Oakland County Sheriff's Office. You'll notice that our officers will be wearing mourning bands until the services are finished at the end of the week. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. And our DPW Director will round us out on service impacts, if any, from the 4th of July, as well as some other updates.
So 4th of July happens on a Thursday, trash will be delayed, it'll be picked up the following day. So if you're normally on a Thursday, it'll be Friday. If you're normally on Friday, it'll be Saturday. Construction season, again, just a reminder, it's in full swing. You can Google or Bing City of Ferndale construction schedule, go to the Giffords website, it's usually the first one that pops up. That'll give you an idea of where we're at. Woodward is in the closeout stage. One note of importance is that the bike signals will be turned around as the city has requested. That should take place shortly. I'll say the lead service line replacement team is meeting internally this week. We expect a progress update to council on July 22nd. Last thing of note, slightly related, is the Consumer's Annual Report on Water Quality for 2023 that we put out every year. That is something that will go to residents by the end of this week, and I'll say that most importantly, the first sentence in it says that your tap water meets all federal and state standards for quality and safety. So that's it.
I do have a couple questions.
Okay.
Regarding, I know that there was a notification regarding the police and fire station tours. Is that ongoing through the?
That is, I believe, Joe can speak to that.
Through the chair, the dates were advertised in May, so those dates have been confirmed as being able to be attended by all parties, all staffing parties, and we were looking for RSVPs, but we can still accept RSVP appointments.
Got it. All right. And another question. So I see that the sidewalk markings have been kind of updated over time, so they're a little brighter now. So what is the way in which residents can pay for those themselves ahead of time, if possible? Because I'm pretty sure there was a notification that came out showing the amounts of the costs, rather.
Yeah, they should have all been given their invoices and construction costs, and then they follow up with City Hall to make payment. And the reason that those just we refreshed all those, we're still about a month and a half out from the construction for the sidewalk program.
Sorry, through the chair. And if a resident wants to contest the decision on a slab, who would they contact?
Their first call would be DPW.
Okay. And that's in the letters that have been sent out?
Yep.
Excellent.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
And I'll just go ahead and finish my office on the 4th of July. As a reminder, the public offices are closed in observation of the 4th of July on the 4th of July and July 5th. City Hall will be reopening July 8th. That does impact the agenda publishing timeline, so you can look for us to try to get that agenda out prior to the 4th of July holiday, which means we might be contacting council and staff more aggressively on the next agenda to meet those deadlines.
Mayor, back to you.
Right, so now I'll open up to council, and I will start with Mayor Pro Tem.
Well, I don't think I have anything tonight.
Okay. Councilmember Kelly?
Just wish everybody a happy and safe 4th of July.
Councilmember Polika?
Two things. One, I want to thank Roger for taking the time a couple weeks ago to drive around the bike lanes with me so I could explain about reversing the light signals, and then he conveying it to James so that you could convey it to MDOT to show how dumb the way that it is now so that it can be reversed so that people can actually see the darn lights. So thank you. And happy 4th of July, everybody.
First of all, happy birthday belated to our police chief. And second of all, just a reminder that the Ferndale Historical Society has house plaques available for the year. You can get a house plaque for the year your house was built to place on your house. If you purchase one of these plaques, you will also get a free 1-year membership to the Ferndale Historical Society. So please check that out and consider doing that, and have a safe and happy 4th of July.
So I have a couple of announcements. I will first start with a resident, longtime resident, Rick McClanahan, passed away a few weeks ago, and I just wanted to send out my thoughts and prayers to his family. I learned that Rick was really involved in, as far as like blessings in a backpack with the schools, and really, and as far as the camps for the elementary schools. So being a huge person to donate to those efforts. We had our moments on social media, but he was a great guy and always full of questions and wanting to know what was happening with the city. So I was sorry to hear of his passing. I would also like to say that the superintendent of Ferndale Public Schools has offered a new opportunity to kind of get to know her and learn and ask questions about what's happening in Ferndale Public Schools, because she's having what's called a walk and talk on the 2nd and 4th Monday of the month, between 5 and 6. I think it might have been 5 to 7, but you would meet with her and you'd walk and talk right at the Ferndale High School on the track. So if you want to get some exercise and find out what's happening in the schools, a great opportunity to do that. I may or may not do that, because if I come here sweating, we'll probably be sitting further apart than we are now. So, but it's a great opportunity. I may take her up on that every now and again. I wanted to thank everyone who participated in the city's Juneteenth celebration, Ferndale Public Schools, elected officials, City of Ferndale. It was a great idea to bring it inside because it was hot that day. And I was really, the highlight is probably the students that spoke about what Juneteenth means to them, and I really enjoyed having them. I invited them, all the students, to physically come out with me and raise the flag, so I wanted them to put their hands on it and remember it as an important event that's done on behalf of them, because they're the future leaders. I just also wanted to note that what I didn't mention on Juneteenth is that I believe our state representative, Helena Scott, was pretty influential in helping that become a state-recognized holiday as well as federal. So I wanted to get that out and give her that shout out and her flowers for that, because I found that out after our event. But with that said, I don't have anything else, and I wish you all a happy, safe 4th. And this meeting is adjourned at 9:29 p.m. Thank you.
Thank you.